And this is Birds, the Kirk and Byrd Show with our HBCU coverage. That's right. We've got with us HBCU alum, professional journalist, and Howard University faculty, John Harris. John, welcome to the show.
It's a pleasure, gentlemen. Appreciate you.
Yeah.
Great having you.
So y'all know, John Harris is a graduate of Bowie State University. He works at Howard University and he teaches journalism. We'll get into all of that. He teaches some writing classes, and he's been a journalist in sports for a number of years, and we'll get into that in terms of some of the places he's written for in sports coverage. But he is out. I'm proud to say this is my frat brother. I've known him for probably 25 plus years. That's right. All right. And dude can ball. That's how, I mean, we were in the same chapter, but we really got to be close because we got nasty left hands going to the left, you know. So again, welcome to the show, John. In case you didn't know, my boy Kirk here, he got game too. He played at Phoebus back in the day. But yeah, let's get into this. We're going to talk about we want to talk about your DMV proud. Like you're an alum of Bowie State. Are you from this whole metro area? Did you grow up
I
here?
am originally from, and Kirk and I were just talking about this, smack dab in the middle of Baltimore and Washington, D.C. I was born and raised in Annapolis, Maryland.
Yep.
Oh, okay.
What high school did you go to?
Cool.
What high school did you go to?
Annapolis High School.
Okay. Belichick went there for a while.
Yeah. When he definitely played there at Annapolis for 2 or 3 years. There's a chapter in his book dedicated to my former gym teacher there, and I used to play youth league basketball and football with his boys. So yeah, a little connection there.
Cool.
Oh, cool.
Why don't you tell us a little bit about your journalist work? Because we were talking, you've written for some very prestigious institutions, including the great Baltimore Sun, which is a sports city. But why don't you give us a walkthrough? Rusty and you guys met through Alpha Phi Alpha. I'm an honorary member, right, Rusty? Right. So I just don't want to get branded. So why don't you walk us through, your career, who you've written for, and what you've covered, and then let's learn a little bit about you. And then Rusty and I, being from Hampton, grew up in Hampton University with the Hampton Institute. We were talking about back in the day, and we know a lot of people from HBCUs, and the HBCUs are getting more coverage now with Deion going to Jackson State, and a lot to talk about. But let's find out a little bit more about your journalism career and talk about bringing it up to the present.
Okay, well, coming out of graduating from Bowie State University, I cut my teeth at the Baltimore Sun. Mm-hmm. But I wasn't a reporter. I was an editorial assistant. I kind of helped out with all of the scut work and rewriting press releases, and they throw me a couple of game stories a week or something like that. So I started there, bumped my head on the little glass ceiling they had there. They didn't want to move people up from within, so I just struck out on my own. And after 4 years, I left the Baltimore Sun and went to the Fort Myers News Press down in Florida. Mm-hmm. And I know that they've been in the news, and I'm condolences and prayers and everything to them. So I was down there for a year and a half. I was a high school beat writer. I was a tennis columnist, and stayed down there for a year and a half. Got some really good experience. Then moved back up to the DMV. Started working at the now defunct Journal newspapers. They had bureaus in Montgomery County, Maryland, Prince George's, and Northern Virginia. So I was in the Prince George's bureau. I did some news work for maybe half a year or what have you. And then I got moved over to the sports department. So once again, I was on a high school beat. We covered a little bit of University of Maryland. We covered a lot of Bowie State. We covered a lot of Prince George's Community College. So I did that for almost 3 years and moved over to some public relations work with the Department of Justice. Did that for a year. Came back to newspaper as an assistant sports editor at the Prince George's Bureau of the Gazette newspapers. Now, not to be confused with the Gazette near Baltimore and Annapolis. They're two different. This one is was a subsidiary of the Washington Post and basically lasted up until like the mid-teens. I worked there for the better part of 10 years with a quick year stint with Alpha Phi Alpha is director of communications there, and
Yeah.
also the editor-in-chief of our fraternity magazine. So I did that and then jumped back to the Gazette again. I've jumped everywhere, but all told, well, and I stayed with, when I came back to the Gazette, I also moved out to the Frederick County, Maryland bureau of the Gazette, which is northwest of northwest of DC and Baltimore. So yeah, I was a sports editor there for a pretty long time, all told about 9 years. So until like I said, things folded and what have you, and I had to kind of I had to retool myself. I went into education, started substitute teaching and doing special ed work in the Montgomery County, Maryland school system for like 5 years after that, from about 2013 till 2018. And that's when I basically got the call from Howard University, just sort of out of the blue. So, and I've been teaching there in the English department. I never thought I'd be teaching in the English department. I'm a good writer, but English, I'm like, I don't want to diagram anything. I just know it looks and sounds right.
Yeah.
So, you know what I'm saying? That's what
yeah.
But what I teach, the discipline I teach, technical writing, kind of fits what I had previously done as an editor, just basically pouring through students' work. The course is designed to it's a writing for the workplace type of job,
right?
I'm sorry, type of class. So it's not actually it's not the technical writing you think about with high tech and STEM and what have you. It's more or less for any job that you're in, just writing proper emails, writing cover letters and resumes, and just having their overall writing chops developed.
Right. Okay. Well, I one of the things I would say is, and I know you moved around, especially as a writer and editor, but and this could be a whole nother show, but I know just the newspaper industry and the jobs have just gone away. I mean, you look at, Wilbon and Kornheiser. I mean, they love their work at the Washington Post, but eventually, like, it's not the same. So they, and they had their TV gig at PTI, but eventually, like, it's just Dan Le Batard. A lot of people, it's just the newspaper industry. It's tough. Oh yeah, it is tough because they're trying to survive and find ways to make money, and then the actual hard copy paper is really going away, and it's online, and they're trying to figure out how to have a sustainable model. So you're not the only one. It's a lot of people have gone through that.
You have to reinvent yourself. Yep.
Yeah, that's right. But yeah, I know I've always been a fan of yours, and I, not just as a friend, but also just because I love the way you write and the things you've put out there. But you also, HBCU sports, especially Bowie State, CIAA. We're going to get into that, but I just want, what made you, how did you get into journalism? Like, what made you even want to do that? Like, when you growing up, did you always say you wanted to do it? But the other thing is, what sports did you play growing up? Especially to be covering sports, did you play sports? What were some of your interests?
And it's funny you said that, because the first thing I thought of is you just finished up. A lot of people like to say those who can't teach or write. I'm an anomaly. See, I don't play that. I've heard people say that, and then I go out on the court and bust their tail like, oh yeah,
you do.
Yeah, you just got lit up by a writer. Now what? So I guess my athletic career kind of led into my journalism career. I've always been a sports nut. My mom taught me how to play basketball when I was 5. She's taught me how to shoot, what have you. So fell in love with that. Played little league baseball, football, basketball, and soccer. Junior high, ran track, played tennis, was going to play basketball. 9th grade, I got kicked off the team by none other than mom and dad for lying about my grades. When they came up, I was still eligible to play, but when I didn't show them certain did you get caught up in it? Yeah. So therefore,
first year in 10th grade, because they didn't have middle school for us. We started high school and we went to junior high. We went to high school in 10th grade. So my first year playing high school sports, I was always an A student or AB student. I got D's in like biology, something, the geometry, and man, I was like, oh, I was playing. I moved up from JV to varsity in 10th grade, and I'm thinking I'm the man. My mom was like, oh, you can't play basketball. And then the baseball coach was also the football coach, and he was like, oh, Rusty, you play quarter, I'm gonna teach you how to pitch. And he had won a state championship at another school, and I was like, and then my mom was like, oh no, you can't play at all. I can play in the stand. So I can relate.
Yeah. So that happened, and that kind of affected me going into high school, because the way they ran, the way Annapolis Junior High and Senior High, kind of like it was 10th grade, 10th to 12th there. It was like they would watch you in junior high and then kind of move you along. And if you were out of that loop, you were just toast, unless you were just that dude and you just couldn't get your grades right until high school. So anyway, but yeah, I played tennis there as well. By the time I got to high school, like I said, I was already out of that loop. Me and my boys decided to just play county league ball and AAU stuff like that in the spring. I did that, but I also continued. I started getting better. My best sport was tennis.
Okay.
So I wound up.
Kirk, same way.
Oh, okay. Yeah. So wound up playing.
I need somebody to play with, John.
Man, I'm so out of shape right now. You better give me a good year. I am way out of shape.
That's all right.
But yeah, I did that, and then going into college, I decided I had an idea I was going to do it, but I went to an open run at like first week of college at Anne Arundel Community College, and I'm looking in there, and I see some dudes I balled with throughout the years. I see some other guys who played at other high schools, and I'm watching them. I'm like, they ain't that good. I can hang with these dudes. Oh my goodness, yeah. So, long story short, I wound up trying out and making the team in Anne Arundel my freshman year, and played. There were 15 of us on the team. In October, late October, early November. By Christmas holidays, it was down to 8. 7 dudes flunked off the team, and all of a sudden, I'm either starting or 6th man for the rest of the year. So that was cool. Right. But after that, my mom and dad, they were like, "Look, son, you're not going to be making anybody's NBA squad, or you're not going to transfer and play anyway. We need you to help us pay for the school you're going to and get the job." So there went that. But I played 2 years of varsity tennis at Anne Arundel too. Had a winning record there. Okay. I went to Bowie. When I transferred to Bowie, they had a team, but then once I got there, I found out that they had dropped it. Had I known 6 months before, I may have gone to another school to try to play like lower D1, upper D2 level. But it was a sign, I think. It was like, look, man, just go ahead and finish up your last few years of school and get on about your life. So, no, I definitely, sports has been I've always been a huge sports fan, athlete. Call it whatever you want, frustrated athlete or whatever. But sports has always been a huge part of my life.
Right.
Yeah. Oh well. Yeah. And so, Kirk, I'll let you go. But I will say this: that's how, like I said, we got to really bond, was playing basketball. And I think not only when we had like a lock-in, I think we played basketball all night. But then when we put on the fundraiser, the basketball tournament,
those 2 years,
the 2 years, I think we would have started backcourt.
Yeah, we were. We held our own. Definitely held our own.
Yeah. So those some good times. And then that made you legit to me, because I actually saw you had game. All right. So look, all right. Let's get into HBCU. Let's start with Bowie State. And I was just with you last weekend at Bowie State's homecoming. For those that don't know, Bowie State is the reigning, is it 3-time CIAA champion?
Yep.
3-time CIAA champ. And what I want people to realize is Bowie State wasn't just best in the CIAA. They weren't just the best in probably the DMV, but they were one of the top teams in the country. They made it to the Division II quarterfinals, right?
That's right. Final 8. Yep. And
tell us about the program over the last couple of years and how they are now.
Well, I tell you what, they've gotten to this status. I'd say it's been a culmination of about 6 or 7 years. 2015 and 2016, they made it to the CIAA championship game. Lost both of them. 2017, we didn't make it to the championship game, but we were still 9-1. We wound up getting a at-large berth in the NCAA playoffs in 2017. Yep. And then we lost first round then, but it was a heck of a game. We played Delta State, came up to Bowie, Delta State of Mississippi, to fight in Okra. Where they got that from. But Yeah, then 2008, then 2018, it just, we just ran the whole table, man. 2018, 2019, 2020. In 18, we wound up winning a game in the playoffs against West Alabama. It was the first game we had ever won in the playoffs in like 4 tries, I want to say. Then in 19, we won the championship again for a second time and lost in the first round. And then the year
you didn't play in 20, right?
Didn't play in 20. Yeah, they totally, CIAA just totally shut down. And then the next year, we wound up
last year 21. Yeah,
21, winning CIAA, and then winning 2 rounds in the playoffs, both at home. So it was just like uncharted territory for us,
Right.
Wow.
One of the things I wanted to do, Rusty, is we grew up in Hampton, so we know the HBCU and the CIAA. That used to be the event at Norfolk Scope. But for people that don't know about the rich tradition of HBCUs, that go back a very, very long way. We think about Notre Dame and Georgia, but historically, Black universities have a rich tradition. Some of the best players, if not the best players, to ever play. And then that's just it's a great culture of football that maybe some people don't know about. And I was just looking up the Bayou Classic because that's been around forever with Eddie Robinson from Grambling. But you guys, if you just want to just do a thumbnail sketch, elevator pitch, 60 seconds on how different and how unique this HBCU with the bands and things like that, the tradition that's there. You guys are in a Black fraternity, Alpha Phi Alpha, and all my buddies are in different ones. I guess I'm an honorary Alpha, but the thing is that talk a little bit about the rich tradition and history and the players that go back. Some of the best Hall of Fame's full of HBCU players, not only in football but basketball. But we're here to talk about football. So go ahead.
Right. Okay. So on the football side of things, I mean, you got the SWAC, Southwest Athletic Conference. You got the MEAC, which unfortunately has been dwindling, but they've always had a great tradition. You got the CIAA, and you have the Southern Intercollegiate Athletic Conference, which is the Tuskegee, Morehouse, Albany State, Fort Valley State, those schools right there. So, I mean, when you think back when the South wasn't open for business for Black athletes, I mean, you had a plethora of just talented people. I mean, you go from, I'm thinking Prairie View, Ken Houston, Buck Buchanan from Southern, I want to say, or Southern or Grand, one or the other. I should have known. I should know that. But you got those guys. You had,
Walter Payton, my favorite player
from Jackson State.
Jackson State.
Then
Mel Blunt.
Mel Blunt from
Mel Blunt.
From Southern or Texas. Southern. It was Southern.
I think Southern, and then of course
Strahan
from Texas Southern. Yep.
Yeah.
Jerry Rice from Mississippi Valley. That's later on, but I was talking about old heads. But yeah,
old school. Right.
But everybody that you guys are talking about, I mean, whether it was during the times when Blacks weren't allowed to the times when we were allowed, and that's the thing about it is, a lot of the talent has gone to the SEC, the ACC, or whatever. But to this day, people want to try to discount that talent, but as I've been told from many people, if you can play, you can play.
You can play.
And those guys are there.
My take on it has been, because Walter Payton's my favorite player of all time, and I've read a lot of books about him and how just dominant he was at Jackson State. And that was, in the early 70s. But when I look back, I used to, I go, well, that was Alabama, or that's Georgia or LSU. But then I go, but that was just name recognition, because in reality, the schools were bigger, they were much more well funded, and they had reputations because of being on television. But it didn't, and they were, I guess, Division I or whatever it was back then in the 50s, 60s, I don't know. But if you look at what Eddie Robinson was doing, and if you go over to basketball, Winston-Salem,
Earl Pearl and those guys, Big House.
Even FAMU won the first 1AA national championship
in football.
In football, I think it was in
late 70s,
78, I think. So, but my point is this: if this was this is 2022, and I think the SEC is predominantly has African American athletes on the field, especially on defense. I think there aren't very many, white athletes, even on the defensive side on most of the teams in the SEC. And then, let's just say 50-50 on the offense. But my point is this: if that's who's making up a majority of the players in the SEC now, well, 60 years ago, those players couldn't play there, but they were playing football. And so maybe Jackson State beats Mississippi State. Maybe Southern could handle LSU, but they just didn't get that chance,
Yeah, I agree. Morgan State, or back in the day, Maryland State, which is now University of Maryland Eastern Shore, they had some stacked teams. They would go on to College Park and run them straight over.
Did they have Art Shell?
Yep.
Yeah, UMES, Art Shell. Yep.
Art Shell. Yep.
Yeah. So we're just putting in perspective for people who may have only been around and exposed to HBCUs over the last 20, 30 years. But now let's bring it to today. Yeah. What the thing when Kirk, you asked me, when I think of HBCUs, one, and this goes back to my mom went to Virginia State, my dad went to Norfolk State, my stepdad went to A&T, Hampton University was right there. I was a child of the CIAA basketball tournament. Like my parents, so let me just say this. When I was in high school, when the CIAA was in Norfolk, most of the Black teachers called in sick. And I remember my dad, I would go with my dad to the CIAA tournament, and man, you see all your teachers, because they all went to HBCUs, and they would be toe up from the floor up, and you'd be like, hey, that's my math teacher. He'd be like, hey, what's that? So, but my thing is, the thing I loved, and I went and I consider that one HBCU I really considered was Howard. But the thing I talk about with HBCUs, and I'll let you go, John, but is so much pride like we have for our fraternity, where I may not see that quite as much after the college years for other organizations. But the other thing is the spirit, like the band, like when the HBCUs, which are on TV now, people are like, no, we want to see the band at halftime. Like,
nobody goes.
We don't want to hear the score. We want to watch the band.
Yeah, right.
So, John, but you've lived that, you've covered it, and you're a big fan. Tell us a little bit more of your thoughts about the HBCU experience, and then let's go ahead on after that and talk a little CIAA football.
Okay, it's to me, and you'll hear this from other people, it's a family reunion. It's a family reunion type atmosphere. It's kind of different from major college football where sis boom ba rah rah rah, everybody's the same color, and now all that. It's a sort of different attitude. It's hype, but in a different place. There are traditions that are held. There are like you said, the band, of course. Everybody, I mean, the stands can be 3/4 full during the game, but as soon as they say, all right, halftime, everybody just they're there to see the bands and what have you. That's kind of a, there's pluses and minuses to that, but it's part of the culture. It's it's the homecoming king and queen doing their little wave, walking into the stadium. It's the band getting the team hype when they're down, but all of a sudden they start playing a certain song, and I've seen this. See the defense on the bench just getting hyped, and then they get in the game and they smack the quarterback a couple times. It's just a totally different atmosphere. Basketball, same thing. I know you could go into some pits like Johnson C. Smith's arena back in the day. That thing used to rock. Shoot, when Bowie State was on the run, we used to rock. We used to have Virginia Union. Oh my gosh! I mean, all the players
they've had a number of athletes go into the NBA, but they've won, I think, about 3 or 4 national championships in basketball.
They have.
Yeah, I know they won, and Coach Robbins, I know he won 2 before I got to college, and then he won 1 after. I say that VCU because it's right down the street from us. Yeah, and so we used to hang out there. So anyway, a lot of these programs, like I said, have a lot of talent. They haven't always traditionally had the funding, but what I love is I see, Deion Saunders has brought a huge light to HBCUs, and so from the football perspective, but even, we had a young man at Howard. He was a 5-star basketball athlete. I think 2 years ago, he committed to Howard, right out of high school, and so I want to see this type of thing happen. One of my biggest thing is, it's fine. I understand why somebody would go to a Power 5 or a Group 5 school, but it now with NIL and different things, maybe if some of the athletes come to the HBCUs,
That's
they'll
exactly
get the
what I
money.
was thinking. The NIL
Yeah, it's changed the game.
can really like level the playing field. Who knows when, the Jackson States and the Hamptons and Norfolk State, if they'll ever have the funding that the Alabama, Georgia, the haves have. But if you look at NIL, that's the big thing. And the big recruit that Deion Saunders flipped, NIL was a 7-figure NIL deal. And by the way, that's all legal now.
Yeah.
There's nothing wrong with it. And, I've got Hampton University behind me. And I grew up there, walking around there, running, playing tennis there, Division II powerhouse, Dr. Strange.
Yeah. Yep.
It's like a Harvard. It is so beautiful and old. And, a lot of folks don't realize the newer schools, but these schools that we're talking about are steeped in tradition. And, it is exciting. So I was looking at the HBCU top 5, like right now in football. So
Okay.
Jackson State's near the top. And we're going to talk about the CIAA. But Jackson State was near the top. And then I know Union, FAMU, but let's just talk about the upper echelon of HBCUs that are playing right now, and go into the CIAA, because between the three of us, we know people at all of those schools. But the state of things right now, Jackson State seems to be up here, and they're very good, undefeated. Union's undefeated. But what's your feeling on that top heavy part of the tier?
Well, I think that Jackson will probably run the table in the SWAC, I'm thinking. However, just like that crossover game last year when they played in the Celebration Bowl, they need to beware. I mean, they don't. Yeah. And I think Deion will have them tuned up by then, because last year they just thought they were going to waltz into the Georgia Dome and smack South Carolina State around, and they got crushed. They got outplayed in every phase of the game. So I think Deion will make sure that doesn't happen again. I haven't taken a look at the. I wish I had done this before we were talking, but I hadn't taken a look at the top 5 or 10 of all HBCUs. I'm trying to think of who else is really Union. Actually, go ahead. I'm sorry.
Oh no, I was gonna say not just in HBCUs, but in overall. FCS level. Jackson State is number 8 in the entire country.
Oh wow!
So they're top 10 out of all 1AA programs, and that's great to see that they're getting that recognition. I think I'm about to pull up the Division II polls, but one of the things I would say is that Virginia Union is 12.
D2, yeah, okay.
In Division II.
Are they 4-1 or 5-0?
They're 5-0.
Oh, they're 5. Wow, okay.
They're 5-0.
You're right, Kirk.
Yeah.
Yep.
So one of the things though I want to get your opinion on, because I've argued with a lot of my friends and family that have tend to have a cousin, Rodney. Rodney, I'm giving you a shout out. He's Hampton University alum, and I mentioned Rodney and Hampton because some schools have left the traditionally HBCU conferences. So Hampton University, A&T. I think Tennessee State and a few schools.
Yeah, they've been gone for like 30 years. So, but Hampton and A&T went to the Big South, and I know for years they wanted to get to the CAA, and now Hampton is in the CAA. To me, the toughest conference in all of 1AA football. When you're talking about that, now JMU just left, but they have Villanova, William and Mary, which is really, really good this year. Delaware's won a national championship. Villanova won a national championship. Richmond has won a national championship. And so to me, that is and one of the things we should always say is I understand being in the MEAC and being in these conferences, but two things. One is you can't say you're the best and then you go when you have on your schedule William and Mary and they crush you. And I'm saying Norfolk State or Hampton, like that. That could be a natural rivalry. I said, so you want to build up, like that there's a level within your same, like you're both 1AA, but why are they crushing you? So I said, maybe if you are in their conference, you can get better recruits, get better facilities. But this is the main thing I wanted to say.
and I want to get your opinion. I have not been a fan of the Black College National Championship, and I'm going to tell you why. All right, so there's the Heritage Bowl, right?
Yeah.
So Atlanta, the correct? Reason I don't, and I'm thinking, John, I'm hoping you'll amen this is, how can you call it the Black College National Championship when you just have the MEAC versus the SWAC? If you want to have the real championship, doesn't matter if it's NAIA, if it's Division II, if Bowie State is the best HBCU, why do you have HBCU polls if you don't use them for that? Let me get your thoughts on that.
It's the wrong name. They, like you just said, they give it the wrong name. Maybe they should just call it the Heritage Bowl and leave it at that. Now, chances are that the 1AA HBCUs will beat the Division II HBCUs, but every once in a while, D2 could spring up and upset them.
Yeah.
So, it, like you said, isn't really the real National Black College Championship.
Norfolk State and Virginia State have been rivals for 60 years. And even though Norfolk State went to the MEAC, they still play. And Virginia State can beat them, half the time.
Right.
It's a rivalry. Come on, let me ask you this. Do you guys ever play Morgan or Coppin?
Yes. We since the late 70s. As a matter of fact, I got a little cheat sheet here. I can't remember the exact. Let me see. Morgan State. We are 4-6-1 against Morgan.
Okay.
In our history, we restarted football in 1972, and we played them 10 times in that time period. I remember when I was an undergrad, I think we played them 3 years in a row, and we were 2-0-1. We beat them in 88, tied in 89, and then won again in 90. That's what I want to say. But we did not lose to them. So it can happen. But once you get to that echelon, once you get to if you were saying you were playing Jackson State versus Virginia Union, since they're so high up, I'm thinking Jackson State's going to clobber them. That's what I'm thinking.
Well, they do have more scholarships.
Yes.
They were
63-36. Max.
Yeah, exactly. Mm-hmm. Yep. So that makes a difference.
That
makes a huge difference. But that's just my thought in terms of football. And the other thing is, and Deion is like I said, if I was a coach or player on a SWAC or MEAC team, I'd like to have the option, because at the end of last year there was controversy. It was like, well, Jackson State was bound to play in that, whereas FAMU actually went to the tournament, the actual playoffs.
Right.
Yeah.
I think it should be flipped.
Exactly.
You should have the conference champion representing the NCAA and have the next team go to that bowl game. That's the way I think.
I agree.
But I hear a lot of people saying, well, although you make the NCAA, you lose money when you do that, especially when you got to go on the road and go to Eastern Washington or North Dakota State or XYZ University. A lot of people say that they'd rather.
I know that's
the money.
I'm on a lot of HBCU boards on Facebook, and that's what I know.
Yep.
Yeah.
So let me ask you this: do you see any HBCU jumping to? Rusty, you talked about the CIAA. What about the Power Five, though? I mean, you're probably going to have an enrollment up there, but anybody in the next 20 years close to doing that?
Right. Okay. Let's just bring it to now. And if they were to do it now, the closest would be Jackson State.
Right.
But I mean, like you said, when it comes to enrollment, they have 5,000 or 6,000 maybe at that.
So let's do this. Kirk. Not Power Five, just say Group 5. So they're not going to get in the SEC, but if they could get into the Sun Belt, could they compete? Could they compete with the App State, Coastal Carolina?
App State's 10,000 students.
But my point is, could they, if that being the next step, is there a program that could be a Group 5? And what I mean by that is, because they take a lot of things. It's not just enrollment, because Wake Forest.
That's true. Yeah, that's very small.
There's schools that are small, but it's also facilities. And Bowie or Hampton University doesn't, but Norfolk State has the facilities. Jackson State has the facilities in terms of stadium size. Stadium size. Now they would need a big infusion of money to to get ready and stay play on that level. But if they get to those conferences, they're going to make more money because of the TV contract.
And also, your major companies would put probably disproportionately more money into the HBCU programs because of the demographic of buyers in economics. You know, when you're talking about 13% of the U.S. population and a dedicated set of eyes, as opposed to all those schools with the traditionally white schools. I mean, you're talking about, and then we go back into NIL, but I was just going to tell you that a lot of HBCUs are bigger than Notre Dame, by the way. So,
yeah, and I think at A&T they have great facilities, and so academically one of the best schools in the country. I think they could make that move if you know, App State and those other schools in Carolina can do it. I think an A&T could be positioned to do it. But let's talk CIAA football. So, I you know, right now it's divided, you know, between the Northern and the Southern Division, and the winner of each division plays in the CIAA championship, right?
That is correct.
Now, question and just so the people that don't know, the Northern Division is made up of Virginia Union, Virginia State, Bowie State, Chowan, Lincoln, and Elizabeth City. And the Southern Division are all North Carolina schools. Yeah. Fayetteville, Shaw, Smith, John C. Smith, Winston-Salem, Livingstone, and St. Aug. Now, that Southern Division has not been strong.
Not in football in years, like you said. Yeah, they got a lot of catching up to do. Winston-Salem
used to
10 years ago. Yeah,
right,
when they made it all the way to the national championship game. But that, like I said, now they're at the very bottom. Even Elizabeth City beat them, and Elizabeth City has been a cellar dweller in the North for a long time, so they've fallen. But you're right. I think the two teams that are probably be up for the Southern Division championship will be Shaw University and Fayetteville State, because they're the only two right now. Well, Shaw doesn't even have a winning record. They have a winning conference record, but in Fayetteville, they're the three-time defending Southern Division champions. So it might be four, because they played Virginia State in 2017 for the championship and lost. So they're like the Minnesota Vikings or the Buffalo Bills of CIAA football.
Okay. But then that Northern is stacked, man. Union, Virginia State, and Bowie State. Oh my goodness!
Every year, man, it is like. And then Chowan, they're the little sneaky ones that might backdoor you if you're not careful. They've had some pretty good teams. They had a beast of a quarterback. I think his name was Bryce Witt. I don't know if he tried to go to CFL or NFL or whatever. He was a beast for a couple of years there. But then and now even Lincoln, and like I said, Liz City beat Winston-Salem, and Lincoln. Normally, we beat those guys by 50 points going away. They're 2-2 this year. They're messing with people. I think they would have beat Winston-Salem this past week, had that not been canceled. So, you know, when they come rolling into our crib the last game of the season, we can't just take them like, oh, little old Lincoln, let's just beat the stink off of them now.
Right.
It's not. We're gonna have to ball out to beat everybody, because we don't have that same level of team that we had last year or 2-3 years ago.
Right.
Now, so you said Bowie State got a at-large bid a few years ago. The winner of the CIAA championship gets an automatic bid, right? So if Bowie or Union or State, only one can go to the championship game, but there could be a good chance that somebody else will get it at-large, like you guys did, right?
Yeah, and normally that at-large team will have to be 9-1, more than likely. 8-2.
They're going to have to be a stronger.
Yeah. That 2017 year was an anomaly. Virginia State, they might have gone undefeated. They were 9-1 or 10-0, won the conference, and then because we were 9-1, we just had one loss to Virginia State, kept us out. So, but that is a possibility if you catch it on the right year. There can be two teams coming out from CIAA.
Yeah.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. But this game coming up. On this coming Saturday against Virginia State. It's at their homecoming.
Yeah, it's their homecoming.
It's in Petersburg.
It's in Petersburg. Their head coach is BSU Hall of Famer, quarterback. We were talking about this last week, Rusty. Quarterback, former assistant coach, former head coach, came back in a special role a couple of years back in 21 when we won our third Henry Fraser. Yeah, Dr. Henry Fraser. That's my guy right there. I went to school with him for about 2.5, 3 years at Bowie. And yeah, he probably he's gonna know what Bowie is doing. He knows what they're capable of. So Bowie's gonna have to make some last minute adjustments this week to get by Virginia State. That's gonna be a toughie. It's gonna be a tough one for them.
What about Union?
Union, same thing. This
When
year,
is that
let me
game?
tell you.
Bowie Union game.
oh, you said what's the
When is the Bowie?
that
Union?
is on
It's the next week.
the 15th. Yeah, the 15th. Yep. So it's, yeah, exactly. That's what I said.
Wow.
Yeah.
You're right.
So,
And it could be two teams making the playoffs, but State is Division 2. And you got Union as Division 2. And
yeah, they're all Division 2.
Oh,
they're
right.
all Division
So,
2.
right. So is it possible to get 3 teams in there?
So see,
No,
especially
he's saying
if you have more than 3 losses overall, you ain't getting in.
So Bowie State can't lose again, right?
Basically, if they
Right.
in order for them to get it in as an at large, they can't lose again. Yeah, they lose one more time. That's it. The most they can hope for is a CIAA championship berth, and if they lose to either State or Union, they're gonna kind of fall down off of that. So it'll probably go to either Union or State. So
Right. Where is the Union game?
that's at Bowie.
Okay.
Yeah.
When is that, Rusty? We should go to that.
oh, that is the
Make it a
15th. That's what he said.
Yeah, the 15th.
It's the 15th in 2 weeks.
That's right. The
Oh,
following
next
weekend.
a week and a half. Right. So let me say this though. The other thing is, so Virginia Union definitely deserves to be ranked. I one of the things that they crushed Virginia University of Lynchburg, but the most impressive win, and they beat Fayetteville, St. Aug, Livingstone, but they beat Valdosta State.
I know you
And,
are.
Bro, like, didn't they make it to the?
Valdosta.
That's who beat you guys, right?
Yeah, that's
last
who beat
year,
us, and then they made it to the championship game and lost.
Lost, right?
Yeah. Mhm.
Yeah.
Now,
So that
they've kind of I think they've lost twice this year though, which might cheapen Union's what they say not strength of schedule, but the sort of
power
the quality
points and
points you
power.
get.
oh, quality, yeah.
Yeah. But still, I mean, that's still a powerhouse D2 team. They come close to winning it every year. They're always in the mix. So that was, to me, that was still a quality win that Union put. I was impressed.
Yeah.
So yeah, they've got to run them. Oh, go ahead.
I pulled them up. They lost to Union, but they beat Miles College bad. They beat Shorter. They lost to Delta State, but Delta State's a good program as well.
Yes. Oh yeah.
Really good, and they're ranked nationally.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So, my hope is that the northern schools don't beat up on each other too much, and then can't get out, survive that, and then can't advance in the playoffs. Like, somebody's going to go. But I would love to see a CIAA national champion, whether it is Union, State, or Bowie.
Oh, that would be lovely, but yeah, that in this day and time, that's a tall order. Like we had talked about before, Winston-Salem made it to the championship game. We made it to the quarterfinals. Other than that, I can't remember off the top anyone who's come anywhere close to that. And I could be, you might have a viewer later on say, hey, he forgot so and so. Charge it to my head. But saying all that to say, yeah, it's gonna be tough in order to do that, but it's not impossible. It's definitely not impossible, but you gotta really put all your eggs in that basket and really push the program and get out there and schedule other regional and national powerhouses, because that's how Bowie came up. We beat last year we beat Saginaw State. That's really good. That has a good program. And who was that? Oh, there's another big quality win we had in 2021. Go ahead.
Let me tell your team that y'all need to get on your schedule, because they are without a doubt a Division II power. I think they lost in the finals last year, and it's really could be considered a part of the DMV, but it's in West Virginia. Shepherd.
Oh, woof, man.
Shepherd.
Yeah, I know.
Because I actually live almost as close to Shepherd as I do to Bowie State, because it's right across the line. It's right across from where Kirk lives in Loudoun County.
Oh, yeah.
It's in West Virginia, but great tradition of Division II football. In fact, they have the reigning Division II college player of the year, like the Division II Heisman Trophy winner. He's their quarterback. And if you guys could could schedule them and make that some type of rivalry, man, it would only bring up the level of your play.
Because we recruit the same areas. They come down here.
That's right.
And recruit the heck
Oh
out
my
of
gosh.
They
have a ton of kids from PG counties too, specifically.
But you know who they'll play first before they'll play Shepherd? If this is just a guess. Frostburg, because Frostburg just made a jump from D3 to D2.
D2. They sure did.
Like a couple years ago. So I could see that before Shepherd, but that's if you want to step your program back up again, you got to play teams like that to get battle tested for the postseason.
Okay. Cool. Kirk, you got anything else?
Oh, who's got the best homecoming? Howard's got the big homecoming, right? I know Howard's got it.
Hey, Kirk, you put me in a bad spot, man. Because I
with your head, not your heart, right?
Huh?
You got to think with your brain, not your heart, right?
Man, I guess. I'll put it to you like this. I prefer Bowie State's homecoming because people will tell you have space to move. This year, of course, because of the rain, kind of put a damper. But even when things are really popping, it could be just the parking lots could be packed out. Everybody's grilling. Everybody's chilling at the game, at the fraternity and sorority plots, at all the other places. But you still have room to move. At Howard, when all of those people get in that one little 1 or 2 block section, mayhem. Some people just love it. They love it. It's cool. It's great to see because it's always a good time and good vibes. But I like being in a place where I can kind of move about and do what I want to do and not be like, oh my gosh, I'm sorry, I stepped on your toes.
Right. All right. Well, hey, John, this has been great, man. We will close with a couple of things here. We like to get a little more, let our audience know a little bit more about you.
Okay.
But Kirk, do you have any more on Bowie State or CIAA?
No, I was just, I'm looking at trying to touch on, all the people that we know that watch us. So Elizabeth City State, Union State, Hampton, Norfolk State. Norfolk State's having a rough year. Their second-year coach. And they had a lot, because I know you and I both, Rusty, know a ton of people from Norfolk State. They've had some really good players. And then with Morgan State, and then Coppin, yeah.
Well, Morgan has our coach there. Coach Wilson.
That's where he
wound up going. He left us and went to Morgan, and I think I know they won at least one. They might have won 2. So I think he's going to do. He's a good coach. He's a really good coach, and he knows his stuff. And I think he's going to steer Morgan in the right direction.
And Central, I mean, Central North Carolina I don't know how they're doing this year. I was trying to look, but very, very good traditional program, probably one of the top 5s in FAMU.
A&T isn't doing as well the last 2 years, but they were a power for about 4 years. They beat East Carolina a few years ago, and they won a few of those Black College National Championships. So they're kind of struggling a bit in the Big South, and as they transition to the CAA, but I have no doubt they'll figure it out and really get back to their great and winning ways. So look, John, on our way out, a couple of things we want to find out. Now, you have this love for sports. You played it, you covered it. Do you have a favorite movie? And it doesn't have to be a sports movie, but what is your favorite movie of all time?
Man, I don't know if I can pinpoint one. What I'm going to have to do is just spit out one that I really, really, really enjoy, and I will watch it like ad nauseum. JFK.
Okay.
All right. That's
Oliver Stone.
Oliver Stone. 1991 with Kevin, what's his name?
Kevin Costner.
Kevin Costner.
Yeah. That is a good one.
Yeah, that if I had to pick one right off the top, but I got so many, man. You know me, Rusty. You know I'm a little crazy dude, man. I like my comedies. I like to laugh. So I got my favorites there, but
I think for me, my favorite movie actually of all time was a documentary, one of the first ones, Hoop Dreams.
Ooh, that's a good one.
And the guy who produced it, James, I forget his name. He's from Hampton. He played basketball at Hampton High School, and he lived in Chicago. I think he lives in Chicago now, but he also directed and produced the Allen Iverson 30 for 30. And so, but Hoop Dreams, I mean, that story of William Gates and Arthur Agee just was just amazing to see them be followed like that. And then, I mean, but I love a good comedy as well. I was watching Talladega Nights the other day.
Oh, I still haven't seen that. I gotta see that.
When you're flipping through, what my question is, when you're flipping, what will always make you stop? And so Shawshank Redemption.
Ooh, that's another good one. That's another good one.
Yeah.
Got another morbid one, Dead Presidents. That one, my wife hates it. She's like, oh my God, this is the most depressing movie ever. But I love those period pieces, man. The 60s, 70s, and what have you. Something about them, it just draws me to them.
I'll give you another one. So my kid, my son Justin, who's a senior, who you met, he has heard some of these lines over and over and over again, and he didn't know where they came from. So we had to let my son, now that he's actually just turned 18 a few weeks ago, we had to make him watch Friday and Boys in the Hood. Oh, wow. Because now he knows where Bye Felicia, or I'm just gonna tuck my jelly in. Hey, want to see a dead body? All those things he's heard us saying for years, he's now like, oh. So
that's funny. That is so funny. I'll do you one better. Another classic that I guess I'm not too ashamed to say it. Scarface. We used to watch. My wife and I used to watch the edited versions, right? And my daughter will be behind there watching. She's in elementary school or something like that. And so one day they said that, and she said in her school one day, her teacher was asking them what their favorite movies was. And they were doing these Mulan, this, that. My girl goes, Scarface.
Oh my God. Did they call CPS on y'all?
I was like, you told him that? Oh my gosh.
We also had to have my kids watch was it Juice? What was the last one we watched? No, what was the one
I'm Gonna Get You Sucker was funny.
Oh yeah, that's a classic.
That's not Chris Rock when he goes in the rib joint.
I knew that.
Yeah.
I made my son also watch Coming to America, the first one.
Okay.
And then we watched the second one. But the first one was, a classic.
Way better. Yeah, no doubt.
Yeah. Kirk, what about you? Any other movies?
Remember the Titans is always my favorite. It was Goodfellas for years. That's a classic, man. The Goodfellas, rest in peace, Ray Liotta. But when he goes on his tear and he's, the helicopters are following him, and I like that. And then I own 3 movies, with I do voodoo. I've got these movies. I just like, you're renting them to me. Remember the Titans, Friday, and Dazed and Confused, which was Matthew McConaughey's first movie. It's about the last day of school in 1976 in Austin, Texas. And it's just got I had brothers and sisters that were that age. And they nail it. The music, it's kind of a stoner movie, but it's very, very funny, cult classic. Ben Affleck's in it. That was
wow.
Yeah, that was like 1994.
For years, I told people one of my favorite movies, I think it was out our senior year in high school, was Hoosiers.
Yep,
I love that movie.
I saw it at Hilton Village. I saw that at Hilton Village. Yeah.
I saw it in Denby, up in Denby. But look, John, man, this has been great, bro. We are going to have you back. So you are our official HBCU man, professional journalist, left-hand baller. So what we'll do, we may try to get back with you around CIAA championship time or the playoffs and get an update and see how the SWAC and the CIAA and the MEAC are doing.
Okay. Sounds cool, man. I've had a great time.
Yeah, good. Yeah. One thing I wanted to add is everybody, we usually do this in the beginning. It's okay. Subscribe to us, but more importantly, comment. So